The babysitter's nightmare. Emily had been babysitting the Johnsons' two young children, Timmy and Sarah, for several months now. The Johnsons were a pleasant couple who lived in an old Victorian house at the edge of town. They had a reputation for being a bit eccentric, but nothing had prepared Emily for what was about to happen one fateful night. It was a dark and stormy evening when Emily arrived at the Johnsons' house. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson were in a hurry to leave for a dinner party, leaving her with strict instructions to put the kids to bed by 8 p.m. and make sure they stayed there. The storm raged outside, with thunder booming and lightning flashing through the windows, casting eerie shadows across the room. After dinner, Emily took Timmy and Sarah upstairs to their bedrooms. She read them a bedtime story, tucked them in, and assured them that there was nothing to be afraid of during the storm. With a promise to check on them in a little while, she left their rooms and went back downstairs. As Emily settled in the living room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the house. The old wooden floors creaked with each step she took, and the dimly lit rooms seemed to hide secrets in every corner. She tried to brush off her unease, attributing it to the spooky atmosphere created by the storm. Just as she was about to call Mr. and Mrs. Johnson to check on the kids, the lights flickered and then went out completely. Emily's heart raced as she fumbled for her phone and turned on the flashlight. She knew she needed to find the fuse box in the basement to restore the power. Navigating through the dark and labyrinthine corridors of the house, Emily finally reached the basement door. She hesitated, a growing sense of dread making her reconsider her decision. However, her responsibility to the children overcame her fear, and she descended into the darkness. In the basement, Emily felt an icy chill that had nothing to do with the storm outside. The narrow space was filled with strange, old-fashioned dolls, their glassy eyes staring at her malevolently. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder. She located the fuse box and attempted to reset the circuit, but just as she did, she heard a faint, childlike giggle coming from the far corner of the basement. The sound made her blood run cold. "Timmy? Sarah?" Emily called out, her voice quivering. She approached the source of the noise, shining her flashlight in its direction. What she saw made her heart stop. Standing there in the corner were the life-size dolls from upstairs. Timmy's and Sarah's toys had somehow moved to the basement. Their eyes now glowed eerily in the flashlight's beam. Emily backed away in terror, but before she could react, the dolls began to move toward her, their joints creaking. Their voices, once innocent and sweet, now whispered sinister words that echoed through the basement. "I want to play forever," one of the dolls hissed. Emily sprinted up the basement stairs, leaving the dolls behind, and slammed the door shut. She raced through the house, searching for her phone to call for help, but it had disappeared. Desperate and terrified, Emily made her way back upstairs to check on the children. She found their bedroom door ajar and cautiously pushed it open. The room was empty, the beds neatly made, as if Timmy and Sarah had never been there. As the storm continued to rage outside, Emily realized with growing horror that she was alone in the Johnsons' house, surrounded by darkness and the sinister dolls that had come to life. And the children she was supposed to babysit were nowhere to be found. To this day, no one knows what truly happened to Emily that night. But the Johnsons' house remains abandoned, a place where nightmares are said to come alive when the stormy winds blow. And if you ever find yourself there on a dark and stormy night, beware of the dolls that whisper in the shadows, for they may just want to play with you forever.